Hello everyone, in this video I'm going to talk about basics of Pandas. So Pandas is an open source library in Python that we use a lot for reading data, performing data manipulation and related tasks. So it supports reading files from different formats like CSV, JSON, Excel, HTML and so on. And these are actually the formats that are very common in the world of data science. We can summarize the data, we can filter, modify the data, we can merge multiple files and so on. So let's have a quick intro of this library. First of all, we need to import pandas. And here we use import pandas and we use the alias as PD. So whenever you say PD in the code, Python understands that PD means the pandas library. So we run this and we didn't get any error in this section. The reason is because we have already pandas in our system. In case you get any error and you want to install pandas, you can simply use any of these commands on the screen, !pip or !pip3 install pandas. So if you have Anaconda system with Python 3, then use !pip install pandas. But if you have Python 3 and Python 2 with multiple versions of Python in your local system without Anaconda, then you can use pip3 install. And pip3 means Python 3 is pip. So we can just use here !pip install pandas and run this code. Let's see what we get. So as expected, it totally tells you that the requirement is already satisfied, which is basically you already have pandas in your system. Let's check our versions of Panda. And for this course, we are using the version 2.0.3. So this is the basics about pandas. Now let's read a CSV file. So here when you go to the directory, I've already uploaded a CSV file, which is Big Mart Sales. And you can click on this and open Big Mart Sales. So you have columns here such as item identifier, item weight, and so on. And you have the values and all the rows for the data set. Now we are going to go back to the Python code and learn how to read this file. So we will use PD. PD refers to pandas and calling the pandas library. Dot, and the function to read files is read_CSV. Since the file is already under the directory, you can just use the name of the file and the extension in quotation mark in the parentheses to read this file. So we are going to run this to read the file. So now your CSV file has been stored in the variable data. First of all, let's see what are the first three rows of this data set. So data.head function basically lets you see the initial rows of the data set, and 3 means basically the first 3 rows. When you run this, you'll see the 3 rows of the data set is shown on the screen. We can change this to 20 and rerun this code. Now we have the first 20 rows of the data set. So this is our data sets, and as you see, we have the columns and multiple columns, and we have the values. And next we can use the data.shape function to find out how many rows and columns we have in the data set. We can run this and we find out 8,523 rows and 12 columns in this data set. Now let's print the name of the columns. We are going to use data.columns function, and when you run this, you will find out the column names of this data set. The next interesting thing is you can also find the data type of the columns of a data set. So here we will use data.dtypes, which is the property that lets you view the data types of the columns. Let's rerun this. And object is essentially means that there is a string. Float 64 is the float, and integer int64 is the integer. So when you look at item identifier, it's an object, yes. It has both letters and the numbers. Item weight, item visibility are float because these are decimal numbers. And outlet establishment year is integer because that doesn't have any decimal number. These are just numbers. So this is how you can access the data types of columns in Panda. The next thing is, what if you want to know what are the total number of missing values? So you can use data.isNA function and then use the sum function. This line basically says, first of all, count the total number of values that are missing in each column in the data and sum them up so that you get a total number. Let's rerun this code. So the item weight column has 1,463 missing values and outlet size has 2,410 missing values. Apart from this, no column has missing values. So this is very useful when you want to actually understand that, okay, my data might be having missing values. So this is a very useful step during pre-processing. The next thing is you can also calculate or find a summary of the data. So summary is essentially column-wise. You want to know the count, mean, standard deviation, minimum, maximum value. This just gives you a quick overview of the data itself. Notice that the summary only includes the columns that are numerical. It does not include columns that have string type like item identifier because you cannot count a summary for this data type. So these were the basics of Pandas. Pandas has a pretty good documentation and you have things like here. So you can click here and you have things like here, getting started, user guide, API reference and developer guide. By default, when you work with Pandas, you usually go to the reference guide. So you can find here what data types you can work with Pandas, like Excel, JSON, and so on. And you can do some data manipulations, and a lot of things are available here. You can select whichever function you want to know. For example, you want to know about plotting, and you can check autocorrelation plot and learn how to use this function with examples. And these are basics about Pandas. Thank you for watching this video.